Hi, everybody on YouTube. I've seen quite a few posts lately about the United States government and how great Obama is, or why we should vote for Obama, or why this, or why that. And I want to tell you what I know about the U.S. government from personal experience. My father was murdered in 1972, July 18th, 1972 to be exact, 17 days after my birthday. Yes, I was born on July 1st, celebrated it that year in Maryland with my grandparents. We were on vacation. Then shortly after that, we went to Texas to see my father's parents. My father's name is Alan Ray Smelley, Allanraysmelley. Go ahead, laugh it up. But what I want you to do is go to Google Scholar and type that name in and see what comes up. You'll see his master's thesis from the U.S. Naval Academy's postgraduate school in Monterey, which he submitted in 1969 on something about the excitement of molecular. I don't know. My daughter understands it. I'm a historian, not a scientist. Um, at any rate, that day I was well, actually, the night before, I was very angry with him for leaving. I didn't want him to go to work that night. I don't know why. I've always been very intuitive, but I was very upset about it. And the next day, when we were expecting him back, the doorbell rang and I answered it, and it was our pastor from the church and the two gentlemen that worked with my father in his lab at Lawrence Livermore Nuclear Laboratory, I believe is what they call it now, LANL. That's where he was working as a nuclear physicist. Um, the pastor told me to take my brother out of the room, so I took my little brother, who was 4 at the time, into my bedroom. And we were sitting on my bed looking out the back window, and we could see my mother like this as she was crying. And the pastor had his arm around her. And I looked at my little brother and I said, "Somebody's dead." And I said, "Daddy's dead, or he would be here." And I knew before my mother even called us in to tell us that he was gone, that he was gone. So I knew. Um, right after that, my aunt and uncle's home in Houston, where we had been like a week and a half before, we'd only been home about 5 days when this happened, was totally ransacked. Nothing was missing, nothing was stolen. It wasn't like just a normal break-in. It was just completely torn apart. In Corrigan, Texas, about 100 miles north of Houston, my two aunts, very young at the time, 12 and 16, were at home. Nobody else was there. And two men in black came, literally, the guys in the car, with the sunglasses and the dark suits, black sedan, pulled up and interrogated them for a couple of hours, wanting to know what their brother had been doing and who he'd talked to and where he'd been. And like these two little girls are going to know, young ladies. Then we got back to Maryland after his funeral, which, by the way, there was a commander there that told my mother that she would be surprised at the streets he'd walked on while he was alive. And since he spoke Russian and Vietnamese fluently, and he had White House security clearance, we can only assume that he was probably involved in military intelligence. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Um, and he did 6, 7 tours of Vietnam, Navy SEAL, that kind of guy. Not the easiest kind of guy in the world to murder. So anyway, um, a friend of her sister's worked at NSA, which is right next to Fort Meade there in Maryland, and she had lunch with her and told her that what my father had said to her before he had died, which was, "They're coming to get me, Linda, and I've found a leak and I've got to plug it up." And who knows what he meant by that? She didn't. But this lady said, "Okay, I'll try to find out what's going on." And she waited for several weeks and tried to contact this woman again. Never got an answer back from her. And when she called NSA, she was told that the lady had never worked there. She also went to the Secretary of the Navy and laid it out before him, and he said, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Smelly, but you know more than I can tell you." The government also assured my grandparents that they would release my father's service record after 5 years, even though they tried to tell us all that he had committed suicide. Now you try to commit suicide with your hands tied behind your back. I think, and hang yourself. Go ahead and try it. I mean, leave rope burns in your wrists too. Let's see if you can do that. At any rate, then when they did finally write 5 years later, everything was blacked out except like his name and his social security number. And to this day, even under the Freedom of Information Act, we still can't get anything but basically that. Now they can release things about chemtrails and UFOs and all kinds of other things, but they won't release that. Now, why is that? Doesn't that seem a bit odd to you? It sure does seem odd to me. So let me put it this way. I was followed around. My mother kept moving us. I went to 7 different schools between the time I was 12 and the time I was 17 when I graduated from high school. That's an awful lot of schools to go to. Never really had any roots, but every time I go to a new school, there'd be some guys in vans or sedans parked by the school. I mean, I had people notice this, friends of mine. Who are they? What are they doing? Why are they here every day? That kind of stuff. It was kind of weird. And it happened a lot, and they finally stopped that. As far as I know, God only knows, they're probably still watching us now, although they probably don't think of us as much of a threat. I mean, what am I going to be, a historian? So what kind of a threat am I to them, except now that we've got the internet, right? But anyway, this is my thing. This is just the first lesson in Jedi Master history. Do not trust your government. Do not trust my government. They are all part of this great conspiracy. You call me a conspiracy theorist if you want, but I bet you your father wasn't murdered in a lab that's run by the government-funded lab as a Navy officer either. Mine was. And then we were basically terrorized, and we still can't find out what happened to him, and we never will. No one will touch this. No one. Now, why is that? I wouldn't be surprised if somebody comes after this is published on YouTube and puts a bullet in my head, so if you never hear from me again, you might wonder why. Although maybe they don't care anymore. They think nobody's going to care. I don't know. I try not to think about this too much anymore, but believe me, George Bush, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, George Bush Sr., Reagan, Carter, Nixon, back, they're all the same thing. They're all members of the Council on Foreign Relations. They're all part of the Trilateral Commission. And when the Bilderbergers met, they're probably all involved in that. God only knows about the Bohemian Grove stuff. Go see Alec Jones' channel for that. I don't know. But all I can tell you is that my father was murdered by my government when I was a small child. And I'll be damned if I'm going to let anybody on any channel or anywhere else tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about when I say that our government is corrupt to the core. They don't give a damn about you, they don't give a damn about me, and they sure as hell don't give a damn about the rest of the world. So you people out there that think I'm crazy or that think that conspiracy people theory are crazy need to wake up. These people have been in control for so long, they don't even care if their agenda's obvious now. But if we don't start standing up for what's right and what we know is right and be willing to sacrifice our lives for it, then we're going to find ourselves herded into cattle cars just like the Jews were, on our way to FEMA camps or on our way to other camps, because we dare to speak the truth. So I urge you all very strongly to wake up. Smell the coffee, and don't let these people that are on these kind of channels say that the U.S. government is great under Clinton or better under this guy than it was under that guy. They're all the same. They'd all kill, lie, cheat, steal, murder, rob, shoot, assassinate, do anything they could to get ahead. So pay attention, wake up, and get real. That's all I'm going to say about this right now, about my dad, because I miss him a lot every day. 36 years later, I still miss him. Peace and love. Take care.